Turning the same paperwork over and over again. And you find that the letters from DHS are hard to understand. Don't let them take away your health care. Call organizations today. 376-7151 or 870.
She was talking about it.
Get help in
I'm gonna ride the bicycle. And, I thought, you gonna be nosy, right? Of course.
and Saturday starting stop. Healthcare is a human right. Call today. Get the help you need.
Over 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially at the supermarket, is tough. Benefitscheckup.org is a free website that helps you pay for food, medicine, even utilities. Visit benefitscheckup.org.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates to the same goal. Wounded Warrior Project was created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war, whether those scars are physical or mental. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Good. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hope everybody's having a great day this morning. Hey, you hear the music, you know what time it is. It's time for the workplace here on KBF 88.3 FM. Voice of the People, Community Radio. I'm your host for the workplace, Toney Orr, and as always, my co-host in the studio is the Reverend Dr. Denise Donnell. How you doing this morning, Denise?
I'm well. Good morning, Grand Rising.
Yes, yes. So we have a great show for you today. Got a lot to talk about. You heard the music that we have work to do. But first of all, I just want to thank you for tuning in this morning. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day, this beautiful Thursday morning to tune in and listen to the show. Just want to remind everybody that if you want to donate to KBF 88.3, we have been around for over 38 years. Come up on 39 in August. Yes, our anniversary of KBF is in August. You can still give and donate to KBF. You can go to www.kabf.org. And while you're there, when you hit the donate button, become a sustaining monthly member of KBF 88.3 FM. Your monthly contribution will help go to the sustainability of KABF. You can also call 501-372-6119 and you can give your donation or your pledge over the phone. You can also call one of the 70 shows that we have on the air throughout the week. You can call us directly to the studio, 501-433-0088, 501-433-0088, and you can give your pledge or your donation that way. Or you can come by the station here at 2101 South Main Street here in the city of Little Rock, 72206. You can come and you can come upstairs and give a donation or pledge that way. And as always, if you come, I'll make sure that you do not leave empty-handed, that we will show our appreciation for you coming, give you a t-shirt, a hat, a mug, a CD or something. Also, with the t-shirts, I just put in a new order for t-shirts. We are trying to see, we're changing up the color. And so it's going to be gold or yellow with black lettering with the KBF logo. And so just want to see how those work. We decided that maybe we need to put a little more variety, as they say, spice of life into our merchandise. And so give you bigger variety to choose from when it comes to our t-shirts and our merchandise. And if you have any suggestions about whether it's hats, whether it's coffee mugs, or other colors that you may want to have or you may want to see, just let us know. Give me a call at 501-247-3869, and we'll take it into consideration and see if we can get that changed to get that for you. You can also send a check money over to 2101 South Main Street here in Little Rock, 72206 for your pledge or your donation. So I want to give opportunity for my co-host Denise to greet all of you this morning before we get into our announcements. If she has any announcements.
Right, so I greeted you this morning, and so now I do want to make a couple of announcements. I want to remind you that the third series, the third episode of Black Love is happening on July 8th. That is a Saturday at 7 o'clock p.m. And it's going to continue to be at the same place, the Deal Gallery, right here at 2003 South Louisiana Street in the city of Little Rock, state of Arkansas 72206. We are excited. This time the conversation is the title is Black Love, from the voices of men, women, and everyone in between. So I'm super excited about how this conversation is going to unfold, and all of you are invited. So mark your calendars now. As soon as the flyer goes live, of course, I will share it with all of you via Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and all of those other platforms. Also want to remind you that Clyde's, the rep is running a play called Clyde's. It is about formerly incarcerated people who have been employed at a sandwich shop, and the story that unfolds with Yvonne, what's her name? Phyllis Yvonne Stickney, who has been in, she's a Black woman actor who has been in several movies that we know. She's a stand-up comedian. We went to see her a couple of years ago, and she is the star. And I really want y'all to go see this play so I can talk about it Tuesday. But there's so much to unpack, so much for me to unpack. And I want somebody to know exactly what I'm talking about when I lift up these scenes that come from that play. So Clyde started last night. And Decarcerate and the Freedom Fund, they are also partnering with the rep to put on this particular play. And so those who are interested in Decarcerate and the Freedom Fund, of course, you can go to their website to donate. The Freedom Fund is looking to bail out people who are languishing in jail right now simply for failure to appear. Ryan Davis told his own story about having been one who failed to appear and how that ended for him. And so we want to make sure that we're using these community events to push us forward toward our goal of being free and liberated in these spaces.
Okay, and if you haven't been to one of the first two Black Love events, you have missed the treat. Oh my God, it is awesome. It's a great conversation. It's a great dialogue. I'm looking forward to the third installment of the Black Love event. It is, you just need to come and be a part of it. You will thoroughly enjoy it, but you will also walk away with some perspectives, some different understanding of Black love. And that's what I believe that Denise is trying to get us to understand and to see what really is Black love. And so
I'm glad you mentioned that, Tony, because episode 1 is actually running on KABF on Sundays at 4 o'clock. So at 4 o'clock, so those of you who have not been able to attend, you can hear a production. We actually took 30 minutes from the live show, 30 minutes from a B-roll, and we have an hour show that's running right now, KABF 88.3 FM on Sundays at 4 o'clock.
Okay. Also, just wanted to talk about it. It was interesting. I saw the flyer this morning about the play at the Rare Clydes, and and it slipped my mind that I was going to go, and so I'm going to try to get this. So Denise, it runs from now until the 25th. I'm going to make sure I get there because I did enjoy the stand-up of Miss Stickney. I have seen her in New Jack City and other films, and I really would love to see this, especially for those of us who have at some point in time been incarcerated. And just listen to what you were saying about Ryan Davis. You know, there are so many people who are incarcerated or in jail over this failure to appear. Not only will they lock you up, but when you don't show up, there's a fine that they add to that. There's court costs. You may have a $50 traffic ticket, but because you fail to appear, that $50 traffic ticket is now ended up at $500. And then they'll give you another court date. They may not let you know you have a court date. So now your court date comes along, you don't even know you had a court date, and now that 500 could end up being 1,000 or even more because they're adding all these fines, they're adding all these fees, they're adding all this failure to appear warrant, and when you get a warrant, that's another. And so now when you finally get to court, and if you get stopped for any reason, or there's some you have to interact with the police, and then they thought, oh, you got a warrant for you for failure to appear, and now the first thing they do is lock you up. And so it's interesting how these laws work, and it affects Black people so much more than it does any other race. So I'm gonna have to get there and see this play. So I have 3 announcements I want to get to. I mentioned this on Tuesday. Want to mention it again. Moncrief 3030 event, and this is sponsored by Sidney Moncrief and his foundation, and it's called Shadow a CEO. And if you want more information, you can contact Dr. Christy Carter. Her telephone number is 501-358-2868. Or you can email her at Christy Carter Pro. That's KRISTYCARTERPRO @gmail.com. And the deadline for calling all CEOs and leaders, this is going to be Friday, June 16th, 2023 in Little Rock. Also, Juneteenth in the Delta, at the Delta. Juneteenth in the Delta, hosted by the Delta Cultural Center, 141 Cherry Street in Helena, Arkansas, 72342. This is going to be June 19th, 2023, starting at 10 a.m. African Americans played a pivotal role in the cultural and historical significance of the Arkansas Delta. Meet Edmund Davis, assistant history professor at Arkansas Baptist College, as he discusses the importance of African American men and women in the Delta and how their works impacted future generations. For more information, please contact Education Coordinator Richard Spielman at 870-338-5641. That's 870-338-5641, or Richard edmund.spielman@arkansas.gov. Also, Edmund Davis has written this book, From Grind to Growth, the Edmund W. Davis story. And I know for some of you who have lived on the street or worked or whatever, we call it the grind. You out there on the grind. And part of that grind is, how do I move from being grinding out every day to a place of growth, to a place of sustainability, to a place of what we may consider success, what we may consider improvement in our life. And so when I hear that word grinding, I always think about, when I was on the street, we were grinding every day to try to get something. And so I think that's going to be an interesting story. I would love to hear Mr. Davis as he talks about his book. The City of Little Rock Family Matters Reentry Wellness Retreat. Register now at www.surveymonkey. I don't know how they came up with that. www.surveymonkey.com, and you can get free family portraits. This is going to be Saturday, June 10th, 2023, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Little Rock School District Development and Training Center. That's 401 John Barrow Road, Little Rock, Arkansas 72205. There's going to be panel discussions, resource vendors, breakout sessions, free food, and haircuts. For more information, call 501-399-3420. That's 501-399-3420. Or you can email, or you can go to DCPinfo DCPinfo@littlerock.gov. So on Tuesday's show, we started a segment of the show. We were talking about the government. Denise brought up how that we are the government, how the government spends spends the money, how the government makes decisions about our money, and if we're not involved with what the government is doing, the government is going to do what it do. There has to be some type of involvement from us, whether it's through voting, whether it's through actions, whether it's through protest, but we have to do something to ensure that our congressional leaders and our senators are listening to us. Over the past couple of days, there have been these bills going before the Supreme Court. One that's there now is about gerrymandering in Alabama. For those of you who don't know, a couple of years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court pretty much gutted one part of the Voting Rights Act that was very important, especially here in the South. And that part, they call Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, made certain states that had a history of discrimination to, before they made any changes in their voting laws, before they made any changes when they did their districts, that they had to go before the Department of Justice and give them that plan. The Department of Justice would look at it and would decide if it was not going to affect minorities, it wasn't going to affect Black people, and if it was, they would have to change it. Well, once the Supreme Court said threw that out, then that's what opened the door for all these states to come up with all these voting IDs laws, with all these voter suppression laws. So there's another case, in this case that what I'm talking about was Alabama versus, or Holder versus Alabama. That was the case that the Supreme Court decided on about this idea of taking Section 2 out and not having the Department of Justice involved. So now the state of Alabama did a redistrict of their maps. And so even though before that there were 7 predominantly Black majority areas for congressional representation, now it's only 1. And so there's a lawsuit that went all the way to the Supreme Court, that's at the Supreme Court now, challenging Alabama's gerrymandering law district. The same thing is going on here in Arkansas. There is a lawsuit about the gerrymandering here in Arkansas, and there's one in North Carolina that's still the first one that went through in North Carolina. They sent it back. The Supreme Court said, yes, you have to redo this because it is biased. It is racial. It is racial in nature. So North Carolina refiled it. They changed some things. They refiled it, and now that one is at the Supreme Court also. And what I'm getting at this morning, when we are not involved with what government is doing, government is going to do what they feel or what they believe is the right thing to do.
No, they're not. They're doing what they feel like is the right thing to do, the government, on our behalf.
Let me finish. When I said that they're going to do what they feel is the right thing to do for them and for their constituents, for their political agenda, or their ideas. That's how they're going to frame it. Whenever they say, oh, we're looking for the quality of life, we're looking for the best for the people of this country, that is a lie. They're looking out for what they believe is the agenda they want to set forth. Which brings us to, so our 4 congressional representatives, Womack, Hill, Crawford, and not Kyle, Prince Hill, John Womack, Crawford, and I can't forget I always forget the last one, but it's almost like it's non-existent. So they have signed on to a deal with 27 other Republicans in the House, sending a letter to the VA, the Department of Veteran Affairs, asking them to take down the pride flag that has been flying at so many centers. The VA responded and said, and the reason they said that is because that pride flag was making a political statement. And what the VA responded to the credit of the VA, with the way they responded, said, we want every veteran to feel like they can walk into any vet center and not feel discriminated against, not feel isolated, not feel ostracized, or not feel that they don't belong. And so the response from the Republicans were, you're making a political statement by doing that. And when you think about it, what's political about it? There's nothing political about it, because we know that there have been gay, transgender, LGBTQ service members in the military from the beginning. And even now they serve. The one thing about the military that we were always taught is that we are one. We don't see color, we don't see this, we don't see that. Now, it has never played out that way, but that was the idea. And that if you are a vet, then which is really funny, because they said if you are a vet and you served our country proudly, then you're going to be treated as this, I don't want to use the word hero, but you're going to be treated with a certain respect. Well, to me, how do you determine who gets treated with the respect? So just because I don't identify as you, just because I don't look like you, I don't deserve that same respect for me fighting for my country, for me standing up for the principles of this country. And because you're always taught that you fight for the rights. You are fighting for the rights of this country. You are fighting for all the people of this country. But then you come back and now you're mistreated, even though you did serve in the best interest of this country. And so that's a conversation I want to have this morning about what do you think about this they're telling the VA to stop flying the pride flag, but also how do we become more involved? What do we need to do if those congressional offices, if our state representatives, if our state senators, if they work for us, we pay them. We pay them. We put coins in their pockets. And if I'm paying you, I should expect a better service. Are you going to pay somebody to do some work on your house and you get shabby work? You're going to be upset and you're going to do something about it. You're going to, whether you report them to the Better Business Bureau, whether you take them to court, you're going to do something about it. So we have to have some type of involvement and accountability, and have to have them accountable to us. So what do you think, Denise?
Well, first, I want we missed an announcement. Domino's in the Park.
Yes.
This Friday, tomorrow at 5 p.m. We've put a time on it from 5 to 7, but we are more than willing to continue the conversation if it goes that way and stay a little bit later. But it's right here at Petaway Park on 21st Street between Commerce and Park. The other thing I want to make sure we know is that the fourth person is Bruce Westerman.
Okay.
The 4 congressional officers from Arkansas, along with 22 other Republicans. 27 other Republicans have signed to have the VA remove this flag. I also want to say hello to those of you who are out there on the web. I see you, Lo, and those of you who I can tell are watching. I don't see your names, but I can tell you are watching. Thank you for joining us via this platform.
Hold on 1 second, Denise, before you go on. Phone lines are open, 501-433-0088, 501-433-0088. Sorry about that, Denise.
So I think that it would be expected of me to argue in favor of the pride flag being flown at the VA. But I've been thinking about it and whether or not it's a political statement. And if I'm not mistaken, I know this to be true. June is Pride Month, right? This is Pride
Yes.
Month. So I would venture to say that's the reason that they are flying the flag right now, because it's Pride Month. And so they want to say we want to stand in solidarity with our service members who are LGBTQIA2SP plus. I want to make sure that the world knows that we stand in solidarity, because we respect you as service members, regardless of your sexual orientation or your gender identity or your gender expression. And that is supposed to be a good thing. But here's my question. February, if I'm not mistaken, I know this to be true. February is when we celebrate Black History Month. I have yet to see the VA fly a Black History Month flag, an African flag, a flag with the fist in the middle. I haven't seen them say, well, let us stand in solidarity with our Black service members, all members of the African diaspora that I'm calling Black in this moment. I haven't seen them say it is important to us to let Black folks know that we stand with them. It is important for us to let them know that we want you to walk in and feel that you are not being discriminated against, that you are not being isolated, that you are not feeling ostracized, that you are not feeling stigmatized. I haven't seen them make that statement with that flag. So on some level, I can see the argument. Why this flag? Because there are other people who have flags. I don't see you raising the flag for people who are of Latin descent. So why this particular flag is it that you want to wave during this month? So that's the question that I want them to answer. What a Black folk flag is.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that point up, because it is important to know that, like you said, why, is it more political now because of the month, that you want to do this? But, going backwards, if you want everybody to feel included in these VA centers, then why not fly? In fact, why not have flagpoles of all people who have served in the military, the colors? But we know why. We know why. When it comes to LGBTQ, it becomes the idea that we're going to fight for, the white LGBTQ, but we still going to dismiss Black, we still going to miss minorities, we still going to dismiss Brown, we still going to miss those because they're not important. But right now, this is the importance. And so it reminds me of a conversation I had at the VA a couple of weeks ago where I was talking to a VA representative, and they were talking about these meetings that they want all vets, the American Legion, the BFW. And the question I asked is, what do y'all do for Black people? Well, we don't look at color when it comes. I said, hold up. You guys, there's no way, because when I come into the VA Center for services or whatever, I notice that there may be Black veterans who sit in that waiting room to see a doctor. And they just sit there, they may sit there for an hour because I'm there. But a white veteran will walk in, give their name, sit down, and 2 minutes later, Mr. Smith, we're ready to see you. And the other, we look at each other like, wait, hold up, I'm here first. And he come in and they'll say, well, he had an appointment. He was running late. Well, hell, I had an appointment and I was on time. So you're gonna dismiss me because he was running late. So it's things like that, and I'm glad you brought that point up. Let me go ahead and take this call. Call you on the air.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Good morning, Toney. It's so good to be here.
Good morning.
Yeah, you all are there. So, my name is Clyde. I'm supposed to work at your job for that. Very good. I'm a Vietnam vet. I was told that Vietnam wasn't a war, it was a conflict, but a lot of people got killed, including a lot of my boys, which to me was the war. The Black man was there from day one, going all the way back to the Indian War. It hasn't been for the Buffalo Soldiers, even that's because they named us Buffalo Soldiers because of our architecture and our business factory like allowance. That's what allowance is. She likes to be an allowance. We are run, not an allowance. That's things like that. So when I was raised by women, my father is doing things other than walking around. And my grandmother, my mother, my auntie, and my uncle had some very good, strong-minded uncle that taught me work ethic. Now, speaking of military, I hope this thing with the military, which it was, turned into a black and white issue. But I tell you what, I want to collaborate with what Brother Toney said. And that was, you might say that's a small issue. But that's not the first time I heard that brother going to court. I've been to court. I stayed there for about 6 months one time. But I didn't notice what, I just got caught up with the soldiers from different places in Louisiana. I started eating beans, red beans and rice, listening to God. I mean, saying, and when I was in, I didn't notice that. But I'm just saying, what is politics? I want to get back to politics. If we don't get involved, go to town meetings, not waiting for somebody to ready to get elected and you elected because they look good and they play with the kids and blah, blah, blah. They bought you a car and, getting involved from the ground level. Okay, me. I mean, really, go. That's why the candidates were so strong, because they taught politics in their own. Thank you both of you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Willie. And here's another thing, that word political. And part of when I first started, I was talking about the law that the issue that's before the Supreme Court about gerrymandering and how they had diluted the black voter base. And so part of the reason they got rid of Section 2 is in Section 2, it said that you cannot do anything or make any of these voting laws that have to go through the Department of Justice, based on race. You cannot use race as a avenue to gerrymander or whatever, or voter suppression. That's why it's so hard, because what the Supreme Court did, and once they did this, the argument of all these people who were wanting to change these voter laws was saying, we're not doing this on race. We're doing this on political. This is political. It's gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is political. And as long as it's political, it's not about race. So if it's not about race, then why are we here? And the Supreme Court said, well, you know what? If you want to change the boundaries and you say it's political, then it's okay. But even though you know it's race, it has to be race. It's no other way, because how can you go from here, in Alabama, you go from 7 predominantly black congressional districts to 1. And you're gonna say it's not about race. Well, it's just the way we want to draw it politically. No. At the end of the day, Denise used to say this to me all the time. I used to push back on her with this, because I said, no. But she's right. And a lot of other people are right. At the end of the day, race plays a part in decisions by our government. Caller, you're there.
Good morning, Sister Denise. Good morning, Brother Tony.
Good morning, Ezekiel.
Those on the way. Let me ask, I'm pushing back on you, Tony, and maybe those who have observed discrimination as good, I've been one of them, go to the VA and jump in front of folks, and I'm black, and of course, also good at me. How do you get ahead of me? I've seen the expression in their face, and I've even heard comments, and I've heard them saying that he was here to come back out here, then go through the process. I've been to Fort Ruth and also at VA across the office. A lot of times when you see somebody go before you, it's not necessarily because of maybe things that they say, or maybe that they are being seen. And then I want to also comment about this gerrymandering. Sometimes what you do come back to back. Not too long ago, the Democrats were guilty of gerrymandering, and they redistricted a lot of the districts, multiple districts were Democrats. And the Democrats changed all of the different ways to vote in the Delta and where the black populations were to make it influence the white population. And they did away with a lot of the predominantly black voting districts. They carved them up in a way that made them more power, white, if you will, as opposed to black. And this happened. Now, this happened right there in Arkansas. And now it's come back to where it's being done by the Republicans, who at that time did not control the state legislature. They had 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. I know they had Hammersmith as a white Republican from Northwest. But to make the long story short, the gerrymandering then was done by Democrats. And now it's come back to fight, if you will, like sometimes they fight us. But just remember different issues. Like, let's put businesses and politics over the citizenry, if you will, and that's the result of it. Right now, a business has more influence than a person, and politics has more influence than the people that they're supposed to be representing. And that's my observation comment. And tell Brother Willie that whenever he gets ready for a book club, we need to push more reading because it is Sunday morning. That's how we get involved and be knowledgeable about what's really going on. Thank you very much for your time. Have a blessed day. Well, I can't wait to get that car and show you how to put it down.
Well, we waiting.
Yeah, because we got to start counting nicks when Ezekiel shows
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, we got to start counting little nickels.
You know I'll be there.
Okay.
I want to make sure that I say good morning to Rick, who is online. I'm telling the whole listenership that I got a crush on Rick, and he knows it too. So I'm glad to see you present in the space this morning. Lo reminds us that it is actually Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act that you're talking about, and not Section 2, when we talk about Holder versus Shelby County. And this overturning or gutting this part of the Voting Rights Act is Section 5. So for those of you who are going to read, going back to Ezekiel and Mr. Willie, talking about a book club, talking about the importance of reading and informing ourselves and being educated and really understanding that knowledge is power. Those of you who want to do the research, it would be Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act that we are talking about on this morning. And I just want to say that when we think about this and talking about whether or not it's political, I want us to be reminded that when you say, Toney, that the military says that we're one, like we're all supposed to be one, and then you also added that we have not lived into that spirit of oneness, that is important to mention. And I want to make sure that we are reminded that there were Black service members who were lynched in their uniforms. So when you want to talk about how we want all of this statement that our congressional officers made, veterans who have served, this comes in from Phyllis Brown, this is the quote, veterans who have served our country deserve to enter a facility that is free from discrimination and political posturing. That's what our legislators wrote. Representatives Rick Crawford of Jonesboro, French Hill of Little Rock, Steve Womack of Rogers, and Bruce Westerman of Hot Springs. I want to say that I feel like every veteran, as well as every Black person, period, ought to be able to walk out of their doors into an America that says that is free from discrimination and political posturing. So you're talking about a flag that you feel like symbolizes support of a community that you disagree with. I'm talking about a life that we are living that you won't give us, well, not you won't give us, that you continue to resist. You resist the idea of liberation and freedom in this moment. So I feel like this is one of those places where Solar Beam will say, this is a weapon of mass distraction. I don't want to talk about no flag. I want to talk about these laws. I want to talk about what's on the books. I want to talk about my future. I want to talk about my health care. I want to talk about my reparations. That's what I want to talk about. I couldn't care less whether you wave the flag or not, because on some level, that's all it is. It's a symbol. How many people remember after Mr. George Floyd was murdered, we had all of these places like Walmart putting up these political statements on these statements of ethics and values. They were putting them up on their website, right? This is, we believe in Blackness. We believe whatever it was they were saying. And then they were also selling anti-Black merchandise at the same time that they've got this statement up here. So we can't get caught up in symbolism and feel good about it. So the members of the LGBTQ community want to feel good about the flag being displayed. Okay, feel good in this moment, but then what's the real work behind this moment? We got to talk about that too.
And you know, I want to answer something to Ezekiel first, and then I'm going to get to what you said, Denise. When Ezekiel said that the Democrats, gerrymandered, yeah, both political parties gerrymandered, but the one thing Democrats have always relied on, which I think has been a lot of times a downfall for Black people is Democrats have always looked at that, Black people are going to vote for us. So when the Democrats gerrymandered, they actually opened up more Black districts for state representation, for more for state representation, to ensure that Blacks would have a seat in the General Assembly. Now we both know, everybody knows that it's so corrupt, and I think Denise, you mentioned this on Tuesday, that no matter what your ideas are and what your agenda is when you get elected, at some point in time it may get skewed, or you have to play the political corruption game, which both parties do.
Yeah, and I think that right here, I want to say we have to be careful about that, though. We have to be careful when we say, well, the Democrats say, well, we gerrymander in a way that is beneficial to Black folks because we're going to give you more opportunities for representation. And one of the pushbacks that I have to that is that many people believe that just because a person is Black, that means that you have the same same ideology that all Black people have. And that's not necessarily true. And so whether you're Democrat or Republican, so when we're talking about this Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act that was gutted, Clarence Thomas was in support of gutting it. Clarence Thomas is a Black man who grew up Black, and so you know what it means to live the Black experience, and yet here you are with your politics that just because you have my skin color doesn't mean that you are going to be working in my favor. And so this goes back to the educational aspect of all that we do. Yes, I want you to vote, absolutely, but I don't want you to vote for a person just because they're Black. I want you to vote for the person who's going to do the best job for Black people, and that's not always a Black person.
Right, and so now it comes to the idea, the reality of hypocrisy and complicity, because we know, and there is this hypocrisy that yes, America is this place where you can be free, where you can do this, all these liberties, but we realize as Black people that's not the case. And so now you have this complicity because we talk about Walmart selling George Floyd merchandise or having these T-shirts that saying, "Oh, we support you" and all this, and on the other side of the aisle, is selling these these racial symbolic merchandise also. And what happens is that when it comes to a lot of Black people, is that they were like, okay, I'm going to buy. They don't recognize the racial symbolism of certain things, and they just buy it, or they buy into it, and now you end up becoming complicit. It's like you talked about with just because I'm Black and I'm a Democrat, just because I'm Black, you think I'm gonna vote Democrat because that's what I'm expected to do. And if I'm voting Democrat and my Democratic representative, all these people voted for Bill Clinton. And they were proud. I'm a proud Democrat. I voted for Bill Clinton, even though the laws that Bill Clinton and Joe Biden passed, were detrimental to Black people.
And we are still suffering from those.
Suffering from it.
And I want to call out every person in Arkansas. I get so mad about this, who voted Bill Clinton into the Arkansas Black Hall of Fame. You got Black people still walking around here talking about, I don't care what nobody say, Bill Clinton was the first Black president. That is ridiculousness. And it goes back to us we falling for the okie doke. We're not educated. We're not part of the civic engagement process. We are complicit through our ignorance and in many cases our stupidity. And we've got to do a better job of raising these issues to our level of consciousness so that we can stop voting on superficial things. Stop voting on issues that are like just single issues, because we are complex individuals. We have to vote for people who have our best interest at heart, so that I can bring my full self into the space, that I can walk out into the world with my full identity and not just you pointing to one thing about me.
Yeah, and so that's why this platform of KVF 88.3 FM, this 100,000 watt platform, part of the mission of KVF is to enlighten, educate, and empower. But the one thing you have to do, you have to be willing to be enlightened. You have to be willing to be educated. You have to be willing to be empowered. And part of that is you have to recognize your complicities. You have to recognize your biases. You have to recognize your role in some of the things that are happening. And when, I'm like you. I'm like you. And for those of you that listen to the show over the years, very seldom do me and Denise agree on things. Very seldom. But there are some times where we have these shows, where we have these topics where you have to, I agree with, because, that's just the reality. And the reality is, how in the hell the Black Hall of Fame, which to me is a place where, that centers Black people, that's going to center Black people in their accomplishments, their achievements, and what they have given to the Black collective. What has Bill Clinton given to the Black collective? Mass incarceration. School choice. He's the one that pushed for charter school. School choice. He's the one that came up with, hey, if we catch you with 2 pounds of weed, you're a drug kingpin, you can get life for selling weed.
And then the 3 strikes.
The 3 strike law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we got excited as Black people because he showed up on the Arsenio Hall show and played the saxophone. We got excited because we feel like his sexual prowess in having fellatio performed on him in the White House, that let us know, oh, he must be down like we are. So all of these kinds of stereotypical mischaracterizations of Black folks we have fallen into, and we lift those up like badges. And because he came, we believe that he did this stuff that they attribute to Black folks that makes him Black, and turn a blind eye to all of the other things that he has done to destroy our families. And we've got to stop doing that, and the only way that we can is to have real conversations. And if you got people in front of you that start talking about what a great president Bill Clinton was, stop them right there. Just stop them right there and tell them, no, we're not having this conversation. Just start disrupting the ideas. That's all we have to do. You asked earlier, how do we get engaged? How do we get involved? How do we challenge these systems? The reason that I started just consulting my firms is because I believe that every change that we need to affect starts with a conversation. It starts with talking, just talking, but it's talking about justice. And so when you're in conversations with folks and they raise up these issues that sometimes we just say, well, they don't know what they talking about, and you move on. Sometimes we say, well, they old, and we move on. Sometimes you say, well, you know what, I gotta go in 5 minutes, and we move on. But we've got to take the time to have real conversations and to push back on these ideas that are harming us. Not because I want to get into it with you. I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm not trying to be confrontational. I'm trying to raise up issues that we must address if we're going to be free.
And Denise, that's a great point that you make, is that I had to understand this in my life, and especially in the work I do. I will go to a grievance hearing, I will go to a negotiation, and I will push on these policies that were harmful to workers. Push. But then, as you said, Denise, I would get in conversations about what's harming Black people, what's some of the things that it's, and we'll get we'll get upset, we'll get feel like hold up. But it's in those conversations, just like in those negotiations, just like in those grievance hearings, it's going to be pushback. It's going to be, but what you're trying to do is open the eyes of the other side to let them know what you are doing is harmful to workers. Well, you have to take that same approach when you are having conversations about with Black people about the things that are harming them. You have to have this conversation with white people about the things that they're doing that is harming Black folks. You have to have this conversation, and in a hearing, I can't back down. I can't back down, because if I back down, that means I'm stepping out of the fight. And if I'm stepping out the ring of the fight, then they won. And so that's what we have to understand sometimes. When I talk about what are we going to do, how are we going to get more involved, we have to step into the fight. We have to step into the ring. We have to take the punches, but we can throw punches. We don't have to just sit there and get beat up. We don't have to sit there and get pummeled. We can fight. We have the ability to fight. But the great thing that we need to do is understand that when we're fighting, it doesn't necessarily mean with our fists. It means with our minds. It means with our intelligence. It means with our words. There are ways that we can train ourselves to be in this fight. And the number one way is going back to what Whoopi Goldberg said in Sister Act 2. If you want to be somebody and you want to go somewhere, you have to stand up and pay attention.
I think she said wake up and pay attention.
Wake up and pay attention.
But I think also, not only do you need to wake up and pay attention, you have to be willing, you have to be open. You got to stop being scared.
Yeah.
And most of us are living lives of fear. We are so scared. We scared to lose our job. We scared to lose our friendships. We scared to lose relationships. We scared to lose our status. We scared to lose all of it. We scared. And you can't fight scared. And that's John Lewis said, as soon as I let go of the fear, that's when I was able to fight. And he fought until he died. And so how many of us are willing to say, look, I ain't scared. My daddy, he didn't say it like this, but if my daddy had this language, this is how I grew up in my house. I ain't never scared. Never. And that's what we've got to get back to, because that's how our ancestors were. We done lost it. We done got a job and we done lost it. We've gotten a house and we've lost it. We've gotten religion and we've gotten Jesus and we've lost the ability to fight because we're so scared.
As they said in the 119, and I call it 119, is the neighborhood I grew up in Chicago. If you're scared, say you're scared. But don't pretend like you're not. And you know what? There comes moments, what they said, if you throw a rock into a pack of dogs, the one that gets hit is the one that's gonna scream out, yell out. Sometimes, you have to be able to admit that, hey, that hit me. And once you can admit that, then you can do something about it. The worst thing to do is get hit and then act like it didn't hit you. So yes, I'm one of those people that when, as Denise was saying it, I'm thinking about, man, I'm holding on to some fearful things. And so we have to do that. Everybody has to understand that, because as long as you're scared, you're going to be afraid that when you get in the fight, you get hit, you get out the ring. And when that happens, you leaving somebody else who's not scared in that ring fighting by themselves. And they turn around, well, what happened? I'm here by myself. Hey, so our time is up. Great show today. Thank you all of you for calling in. Thank you, Mr. Willie. Thank you, Ezekiel, for calling in.
Thank you, those on the web. We got Phyllis and Lo and Rick. And those of you who I don't see your names, but I know you're out there.
Tune in Monday from 4 to 5 for Down with That with me and Neil. Next Tuesday for Community Voices from 9 to 10 with Denise and me. And next Thursday for the workplace here from 9 to 10 here on KBF 88.3 FM. Make sure you get out and see Clyde's at the Rep, and make sure you mark your calendars for July 8th for the Black Love Event 3. Have a great day.